Hi guys, Harry here from The Dark Artisan, and today I'm here with Phil. Say hi, Phil.
Hi, Phil.
So this is a new video that we're going to be doing. It's kind of a little bit of a list analysis. Our friend Stu, who you've probably seen on the channel a couple of times with Necrons, and he's been on with these Eldar ones. Yep.
Twice. 3 times.
A lady. Anyway, Stu's just started off a Tyranid force, so me and Phil have decided to try and help him decide on where to go next and what models to buy next. So he's only got a few models. The models that he has, he's got a Hive Tyrant with Twin Link Devourers and wings, of course. Every Tyranid force has to have one. He's got a Trigon Prime, a Toxicrene, and 18 Termagants. So, nice starting force. Things he said he would like in the force though is a Tervagon, an Exocrine, a second Hive Tyrant, more Termagants, a Hive Crone, and a Tyrannocyte. So what we've done is me and Phil both play Nids quite differently, and I'm quite surprised that... Are you okay?
Yeah.
I'm quite surprised at the list that Phil's built, but basically what we've done is we've each gone away and built a separate list to kind of advise Stu on how we would do it. So, do you want to go first or me?
Ladies first.
Wow, thank you so much. So, Stu, Twin Link Devourer, Hive Tyrant, wouldn't have it any other way, mate. Wings, 2 sets of Devourers.
I wouldn't put it in, it's just, no.
At least it's not 5, it's only 1.
You should pick my list.
So this is 1850 points, and it's mainly a fun list that can sustain itself.
Always have the Hive Tyrant in. It's a solid unit, you know. It's that really, really good unit that you should always bring to a game, because if you don't, you're penalising yourself.
I think it's the manoeuvrability combined with the sheer firepower from the 2 Devourers. And if you cast Onslaught on him as well...
Yeah, because he's also the Psyker, so, you know...
You know, he's going to be up the board, he's got that synapse control to be like further forward, whereas I feel a Tervagon, you kind of hold back a bit more.
Yeah, it is better when you have more Hive Tyrants in, but I don't know whether Harry's done it with his list, but I've definitely done it with mine, where I've only got one Flyrant in, meaning to make room for other stuff and things like that, but it is very viable to have more Flyrants in, and they just work really well. So
definitely, the sheer manoeuvrability, you've got the synapse and the psychic powers there as well. So my list, like I said, I've got the Hive Tyrant with wings and Twin Link Devourers. I've then gone for a brood of 3 Hive Guard. Hive Guard are brilliant. I put shock cannons on them because the list I've built doesn't have too much anti-tank. Shock cannons are small blast. You know, if you're shooting something like a Land Raider or something, or an Imperial Knight, fantastic. It's only 5 points for the shock cannon. If you don't take the shock cannon, you've got the Impaler cannon, which is 2 shots at strength 8, ignores cover.
And don't need line of sight.
Don't need line of sight, which means if you're playing Dark Eldar, you're going to get raped. Yeah, pretty much. But I mean, even the strength 8 against light armor vehicles like your Rhinos and Razorbacks and stuff, it's pretty lethal. And when you've got 6, yes, you're hitting on 4s, but you've got 6 shots going in, you're going to get probably 1 or 2 pens. You like your Hive Guard as well, don't you?
I bring like 3 squads of 2 sometimes.
Yeah.
The more the better, because they're such good anti-tank, and you know, you're not hoping to cast it like the Zoanthropes.
Mm-hmm.
But it's the fact that they don't iron aside, they ignores cover, and ignores cover these days are really helpful, especially against those pesky wave serpents. But the shock cannon also does come in a good help, because you don't have many anti-armor in terms of shooting. In combat, you know, everything can deal with some sort of armor with smash.
Yeah.
But I do think the shock cannons will come in handy in case you play against Land Raiders, because all those Marine players. Necrons are going to have, you know, their obelisks, or, you know, we're coming into the stage where there's a lot of Lords of War, so it definitely will help with them and things like that.
Yeah. I've gone for a single Venom Thrope. I like taking my Venom Thropes separately so that they're spread out along your army lines. With a Venom Thrope though, obviously you grant the unit Shrouded, so if you've got a single Gaunt within 6 inches, the entire squad has Shrouded, which means you're getting a 5-up save against bolters, as opposed to none. But then if you've got your monsters hidden behind them, you've got intervening models, plus the monster, if it's within 6 inches of the Venom Thrope, gets Shrouded, which means you've got a 3-up cover save on your big monsters, which is incredibly handy against Graf Centurions.
Very, very,
Very.
Well, as we saw in the AdMech game, it didn't really help his team of Karen very much.
That roll was awful, but when I played Rich from Geeks 40k, that saved me. Otherwise, my Dean McCarran would have been dead. So yeah, Venom Throats are fantastic. I only had the points for one in this list. I would normally take at least two, but you'll see where I'm going when we get further down. I've gone for a unit of 3 Zone Thropes, one of them upgraded to a Neurothrope. What can I say? Warplands.
In my whole honest opinion, you're always going to, when you're building the list now with Tyranids, you always got to go, what if I play that pesky Wraith Knight? Best thing to kill Wraith Knight is that Neurothrope. It's
Spirit Leech compared with the amount of shots that you get from
really
Warplands.
good. I mean, there's nothing really that strength 8 I can get rid of its armor save and just, get through it so easily, other than the Zone Thropes. The Zone Thropes just help that much better.
Obviously, Spirit Leech gets you more dice
Spirit
to put
Leech, and then it's not just on the Wraith Knight,
Warplands.
it's on other stuff as well. So you can get your Warplands to crack open armor pretty simply, but you can also kill a bunch of like a weak unit type thing to get those extra dice to do it. So definitely a solid unit.
For troops, I've gone for 2 units of 10 Hormigans. Now, a lot of people like running bigger units. I prefer running smaller units because of target saturation. Your opponent's got to choose which one they want to shoot at rather than shooting at the single unit of 20. So that's why I run mine in 10s. I've gave these ones Toxin Sacks though. As I actually charged, you might have seen when I played Tom's Grey Knights, I charged a unit of 10 at his Dread Knight and killed it. Yeah. It's your anti-monster basically. Anything that's toughness 4 or 5 or even above that, the sheer amount of tax that the Hormigans are going to be putting in. And the first turn, obviously, you've got the Venom Throat there. They're going to have a 5-up cover save. You're going to move 6, run potentially 9, which means you're in range for a second turn charge.
That's halfway up the board as well.
On average, I mean, they've got fleet as standard, so even fleet when you run, you're going to get like halfway up the board instantly. So I've gone for 2 units of 10. I've gone for a bog standard unit of Gargoyles. And I like these because they can keep pace.
One thing I do like about Gargoyles is the Blinding Venom, because you just need a hit to cause them to do a blind test.
I thought it was a wound.
So you just need a hit, so you could just fire them at a Dreadnought, for example. Just hit, make them do an initiative test, and and he just like, and your card effect just comes in and goes.
Yeah, card effects is only weapon skill 3, so.
I don't know whether that's just in combat. I think it's just in combat. But that Blinding Venom does come in handy, and when you look at something like, hey, what if the Gargoyles got in combat with the Wraith Knight and blinded them, and then you got your Toxicrine in there the next turn.
They're a great support unit for Carnifexes and bigger things like that, but I also use them as a smoke screen essentially. Your faster moving things that's going to be up the field, for example, if you cast an Onslaught on your Carnifexes, you want them moving up the field. These Gargoyles, or even the Hormigans, will act as a screen, followed by a Venom Thrope. Your Carnifex is always going to have that 3-up cover. Because of intervening models enshrouded, he's going to get where he needs to be going. So I basically put the Gargoyles there so that they are another fast-moving unit. So yeah. Next fast attack choice, we've gone for Hive Crone. What else can we say? D3 Strength 8 AP 2 Vector Strikes on Flyers.
How was your Fire Raptor, Harry?
Yeah.
It's really good.
Every time I've brought me Fire Raptor against Tyranids, I've lost it.
You're also considering, we're going to move against a lot of armour, and that's the one thing the Tyranids struggle. They've got the Haywire missiles, which reroll against flyers as well. Yeah. So it's definitely a flyer hunter, but you also got that Flamer as well, the Strength 6 AP4 Flamer. Which you're seeing like the Tyranid game, it really does help in a lot of.
And actually, they're not bad in combat.
And they're not bad in combat.
I think we were both quite surprised.
I'm very surprised. I don't think I'd ever bring it down though, because I want it in the air doing as much damage in the air as possible. But I think I always seem to, whenever I run out of Haywire missiles, always seems to be just doing nothing.
Flying around vector
so I think maybe bringing it down after it's lost its missiles, after it's safer, it might actually help, because it's a monster's creature and it's AP2, it's got those attacks. It's
initiative 5, isn't it?
And it's initiative 5 as well, so it's like, oh. So I definitely think it's definitely.
It's a good unit for 155 points. The D3 Vector Strikes, its strength 8 is brilliant.
I mean, for an extra 15, you'll get Cluster Spines, which is just strength 5, AP5 Large Blast, which I guess could be okay.
But most of the time, he's going to be jinking.
But yeah, most of the time you're going to be jinking. Most of the time, you're going to be finding a missile and your Flamer. I guess, I don't know.
Yeah.
Maybe. I didn't put it on mine, but
Heavy support, I've gone for 2 separate units of Carnifex, both with Twin Link Devour, 2 sets of Twin Link Devourers. The Strength 6 is great for mowing through like Rhinos, Razorbacks, things like that.
and just normal units.
The sheer amount of firepower that they can put out.
Power save Marines as well. It's just peppering them, whittle them down. And it's the fact that with all that shot, you're getting 12 shots and then re-rolling, and against flyers or Overwatch, you do get quite a lot of hits with them. I tend to always end up with either half or more, which is quite helpful. And it's like it's an anti-air unit right there as well, and you already got some anti-air. So you definitely think with Tyranids, one of their greatest strategies is to rule the air, and that puts them on a very high standard and very high level, especially with the rules that need to be updated of Tyranids being flying moss in terrain and still getting the cover save.
Yeah, monsters, creatures versus vehicles, armor,
it's a very sort of rule, but it rules is written they do get the saves and things like that. But the thing about that, because you need to find every edge with a 6th edition codex now. So ruling the air is quite good, and the Carnifex is like your Swiss Army knife. It can deal with every situation.
D3 strength 9 Hammer of Wrath.
Combat, you strength 9 standard, and you get D3 Hammer of Wrath.
And I mean, even Land Raiders, you only need 5.
I have taken out a Monolith through Hammer of Wrath alone. I've never got, whenever I come against a vehicle with a Carnifex, I've never gotten onto my actual attacks. I've always taken out with the Hammer of Wrath alone.
Mine killed Sin Celestine with Hammer of Wrath.
It's like it can deal in combat. You give it all this, and that's without the combat stuff. You're giving it 2 weapons, it's going to extra attack. It's going to give it Crushing Claws, Armor Banes, Titanic.
You can drop, but depending on what you're facing as well, you could drop a single Devourer off it and give it Crushing Claws.
Just one Twin Devourer Burning Drums is still pretty good.
And the reason I've got it for 2 separate ones is because if you're running a unit of 2, there is the possibility if they get out of Synapse they can hurt each other, but again, it's target saturation. You've got 2 monsters charging at you rather than 1 unit, essentially. And again, if you've got your gargoyles in front of them with with your Venom Throw kind of buffing them, they've always got a 3-up cover. Get Catalyst on them. You've got 3-up cover, 5-up Feel No Pain. Or get Onslaught. They're going to be running. They're going to be charging straight to your opponent's deployment zone, getting where they need to be. And like I said, you switch a set of Devourers out for a set of Crushing Claws if you know you're going to be facing a lot of armour, or
like Guard or
something
like that. But Guard, actually not Guard because you're hitting the real armour, which is 10. But I'm thinking
Land Raiders. Necrons have got quite high armour.
Necrons definitely. That's one severe problem Tyranids have with Necrons because of the quantum shielding. But yeah, Carnifex is like your Swiss Army knife, and they're always going to do damage.
The last heavy support I've gone for was the Toxicrane, which is basically your monster hunter.
In my opinion, it is. It's the only. It's not the only, but it's the only reliable AP2 shooting weapon. So looking at the Terminator, it's how you're just going.
Toxicrane.
And the Toxicrane, but the Toxicrane is more combat rather than shooting. Its shooting attacks 12 inches and it's AP dash and instant death maybe, but it's got the Toxicrane's AP2 shooting means that you the Terminator problem that you can have with like.
This has AP2 shooting?
No, that has.
That's the Exocrine.
Yeah.
We're talking about the Toxicrine.
Well.
We'll get onto the Exocrine in a moment, but I went for the Toxicrane in my list.
Well, ignore
because it's a monster hunter. Instant death on 6s, poison 2+, AP2 at initiative 5.
Yeah, it's amazing.
It's brilliant. For the points, it's got shrouded as standard.
If you've watched the game when we were playing on the big gate, you saw it just tear through some Death Company.
Yeah.
Moved on to Mephisto and got with Terminators and made him run like a little bitch with one Terminator in it, And that's just one. And I play. I some of the times I play with 2, and it is a reliable one. It can do damage against a Wraith Knight pretty decently, especially if you get that instant death off. But you're really hoping for some good rolls. So it's something that can do quite a bit, and it goes before because it's initiative 6 and then Wraith Knight's initiative 5. So you can do damage with that. The only downside to it, in my opinion, is the armor 4 can really murder it, but it does have its personal shrouded.
Combined with a wall of Hormagaunts or something in front is great.
It has its personal shrouded, so that's just one thing you don't have to keep really compact and pressed in to fit around the Venom Throw and things like that.
So, the rest of the list, because that's not all of it, I've gone for a second combined arms detachment because I find Tyranids have so many good elite choices. Like, it's hard to cram them into a single combined arms detachment. So, second HQ is a Tervigon. Yep. Who doesn't want a Tervigon? 3 Gaunts. There you go.
Unless it spawns out like, in the first turn.
Doubles out on 11, turn 1 for both of us.
I've had triple one many times.
I'll give her the miasma cannon.
Perfect, actually. Because with a Turbogon, I always find that I used to just buy it and it's just doing nothing. It spawns and then that's it for the rest of the game.
If something
and it's 200 points, so you need to find something.
If something
Miasma Cannon is it can just sit at the back, popping this thing at someone. And
if something comes near her, she can flame them. If something's in the distance, she can throw the template. Plus, she's got Stinging Salvo.
Yeah, she's got Stinging Salvo as well.
And I think they're all AP4.
Yeah.
Which AP4 is not bad considering most stuff has 4 armor that's not Marines. So that's why I've gone for that. The next elite choice I've gone for, and this is the 4th one, which is why I've gone for the second combined arms detachment. I was thinking of 2 more Venom Throats. Venom Throats are brilliant, spread them out along your lines. However, I was lacking a little bit of Synapse, so I've gone for Malanthrope. Malanthropes are brilliant, right? If you charge it forward with something that wants to be in combat, such as the Toxicrene or the Carnifex, and you're part of a successful combat, you gain a 12-inch bubble of preferred enemy. It's toughness 6, 4 wounds, regeneration, and it grants Shrouded like the Venom Thropes, and it's Synapse. For 85 points, why would you not? It's a massive Venom Thrope with Synapse, and it's not going to get insta-killed from melter guns, las cannons and things like what these guys do. They just... I mean, we lost ours straight away in that massive game against Ali, didn't we? I mean, the Ignores cover and it was just like, yeah, auto cannon, bang, gone. Las cannon, bang, gone.
I think in our games we recognised the threat of a Venom Thrope as well, and we just popped them off with our Hive Guard.
We both tried to get them, didn't we? Because of the strength it ignores cover and stuff.
I do realise, I've never realised like how many things that I never thought were really good do actually come into play as really good against other Tyranids.
Yeah.
Which is insane.
And then obviously the 2 troop choices I've gone for was just 2 broods of 10 Termagants, no upgrades at all on them. Basically keep the Termagants around your Tervigon, maybe just keep the Venom Thrope back there. The Malanthrope wants to be in combat, so I'll be tempted to push him forward with the Carnifex, keep the Venom Thrope back to support the Tervigon. And obviously with the Gaunts around it, the Gaunts can, they can run away, grab the objectives in the back line, she's spawning more. You're going to have enough at the back. Your Zone Throps are kind of going to be midfield, and then you're going to have your combat monsters and your Flying Hive Tyrant up there dealing the damage in close combat.
With the balls against the walls.
Exactly. So, that's my list. Let's have a look at Phil's list.
Okay, so this is my list now. The start, just like Harry is saying, Hive Tyrant, 2 Trinity Devourers with Brain Each Worms, but some added extra spice into that little mix of
Flamer,
great juicy Devra goodness. So it's Flamer depending on what army you're playing. Because obviously you're not going to bring a Haywire Flamer to a Nidorf.
No.
So I tend to always bring a Haywire Flamer if I'm playing an army that's not just going to bring toughness guys. Playing Eldar, bring a Haywire Flamer. Playing Necrons, bring a Haywire Flamer. Playing Orcs, don't bring a Haywire Flamer because all their vehicles are really low on armor anyway. So you got your deads for that. So I would bring like the Shredder Shard Beetle one.
More horde control.
But it's also so you can have that option for that third little ignore cover haywire thing in there.
But they're all 10 points anyway, so you can just change them.
So you can change it up for which army you're playing. My troops though are a bit different. I've got 30 Gaunts with a Tervigon. My Tervigon's cared out because essentially I want Tervigon and the Gaunts to push up the field along with the rest of the army backing up, alongside them. The Tervigon has a Haywire Flamer or another Flamer depending on army, but he also has Crushing Claws as well, because I always find if I don't upgrade and have something,
Strength 5 is just not enough.
It's just going to sit there and do nothing. And I thought, well, I'll give it something that I can't really give it anything to be really good at shooting wise in terms of what I can bring. So I thought, well, make it all, close combat. What can I hunt with close combat? I can hunt vehicles with close combat.
Plus, if you've got drop pods coming in nearby,
plus you've got drop pods nearby. Yeah, so it's really good there. But a third troops choice, because Stu said that he wanted Tyrannocytes. He's planning on getting Tyrannocytes.
So
I thought, what unit would work best with Tyrannocytes? And I thought, one of the common ones that work really well is the 20 Termagants with Devourers inside the Tyrannocyte. And that's 60 shots straight off the bat. And I do remember using that against Sean.
You're going to even more through Wraithguard with that.
You're gonna move through Wraithguard with that. I even used it against Sean, pop the pod right behind his Revenant, squish all the guns behind the Revenant, shot into the Revenant's Ray Armor, and since it's Ray Armor 10, or when the rules were for it, when I played him, glanced it. We did a couple of glances on it, but that was a couple of glances from Termagants. I mean, that's heresy for everyone, you know. But I did upgrade the pod with the Barb Stranglers because of the rules. They're saying they can fire 5 weapons, you know. But and it doesn't say anything in the rules saying that it has to fire every 45-degree arc unless you use that tournament pack.
Because it's monstrous creatures, so you've got 360 firing.
So some people disagree with saying, oh, monstrous creatures can only fire 2 weapons. But it says that this guy has to fire and can fire all 5 weapons. So
it's just a case of firing arcs, isn't it?
And you know, I even asked a GW member, like a manager at one of the stores, and he said that one of the only reasons they put the rule in there is so it can fire all 5 of its weapons. And when you've got 5 blasts firing at the nearest unit, you know, Bliss Skill 2 is a bit iffy, but you know, when you play Orcs,
you've got a 33% chance of getting a direct hit.
You know, you've got a really good chance of getting a direct hit. And it's going to do a lot of work. Imagine if you just had a pod drop next to a large group of boys and you just dropped it on them. Imagine if you had a pod drop all of them on a squad of 5 Wraithguard. It's going to do some damage at least.
I agree with the whole pod thing, but for me, it's not my style. I'm not.
Yeah, it's no style.
I can't get away with it.
So it depends on your style of play with that one. But that's what I would do. I generally haven't done that. I've done that a couple of times, and it did generally work. The only problem I see in it is dropping it and having synapse nearby for it.
Flyrant's going to be up
because
the field.
The first turn, because it's before deep strikes, you do synapse tests. So you're going to need to make sure before the second one you've got someone there. Mm-hmm. Otherwise, they're either going to run towards the nearest cover or blah 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 blah, so on and so forth. That's the only problem I had, is that because it came in with the same thing, it's just putting a card effect inside of a drop pod. Yeah, it's going to get into the line, it's going to do stuff, it's going to mess things up, but there's no synapse nearby. So, Elite though, I've got another drop pod because you said they want to get a couple of Tyrannocytes. And he's got 2 Zoanthropes with the Neurothrop, same thing, you know, as what I said with Harry's list. They're a really good, solid unit, really.
You can't drop the 3 of them.
All around, it's almost a Swiss Army knife in a couple of those situations. And if you've seen the Tyranid one, I managed to hold up a Broodlord in combat for like all game. So, you know.
Until the last turn, they needed to stay there.
Yeah. But also in the pod, I didn't have enough points to upgrade this with Bob Strangler, but you know, 15 shots per skill 2, you're going to get quite a few shots in there, and it's strength 5. So, you know, you can do some quite a bit damage with that.
And if you're dropping both pods next to each other, you've got that synapse from the Zoanthropes to give to the Termagants.
Yes. I did change this a little bit after hearing Harry's list, but it's generally I've got 1 Venomthrop and 1 Malanthrop. I originally had 1 Zoanthrop and 2 Venomthrops, but then the Venomthrops wouldn't get as much coverage as the Malanthrop in 1 single Venomthrop would, and the Zoanthrop was only there for the synapse. So just having that Malanthrop there beat 2 things with 1 stone to get that out there. Plus you also got that if you want to charge into combat, which the whole army is going to be, is what I've laid out as, is moving as a whole. You know, that's going to come into play. Fast attack.
That 12-inch preferred enemy bubble is nothing to sniff at.
Yes.
Nothing to sniff at all.
Fast attack is because Stu said get this, and because it's a really good model as well, and it's got really good rules. It's the Hive Crone.
You probably agree. The Harpies okay.
The Harpies are okay,
but you can't.
The
155 for the Hive Crone.
Yeah, 155 you can't go wrong. The Harpies okay. I think it's 135, so it's 20 points less. It's got twin linked blast things. You can be the Venom Cannon or the Barb Strangler. And then also you can give it Stinging Salvo as well, which is not bad in terms of shooting. It's also a bomber, so you can drop spore mines on them, which is kind of like just having a Biovore right there as a bomber.
Yeah.
But because it can also vector strike, but it hasn't got the special rule make it strength 8. However, it does come with the special rule, meaning that if it gets into combat, I think it's all units of base contact or 1 unit base contact gets -5 leadership, which is really good in itself.
Screech. It's good, but the problem is if you've got a flyer, you want it to be an anti-flyer, and I don't think anything else in the game does it as good as a Hive Crone, do they?
I don't think anything really does it as good as a Hive Crone unless you start looking into some of the Fordril stuff, because Hellblade's brutal and things like that.
Swooping Hawks are decent as well, but
yeah, but I think a Hive Crone's a very good all-around model, and it can do some pretty hefty damage to a flyer.
I mean, how many times have I lost my Fire Raptor to one?
Every time.
Every time.
But yeah,
apart from when Josh uses it for some reason.
yeah.
So yeah.
But I do think if you're going to use the Harpy, then you're going to have, then you're going to want to do some combos with it. I think because you can mix a Blind and Venom, or you can just get a -5 initiative. It gets them just normal dudes in a combat. But everything you're going to get that you want in a combat is something like a Toxicrene, Warriors with Broad Swords. You got your Swarm Lord, and all of them's going at pretty high initiative anyway.
Mm-hmm.
So that Harpy's little initiative minus isn't really going to help unless you got things like Gaunts, but they also got initiative 4, Hormagaun's initiative 5. So they've still got pretty high initiative anyway.
Yeah.
So it's not generally going to come into play. So that's why I chose the Hive Crone over the Harpy. And then heavy support, we have 3 units in this. So you said you had a Trigon model. I think a Trigon or Trigon Prime has pretty large amount of points. If you're going to use either of them, then you probably want to go with a Horde, especially the Formation and the Swarm, which they can come back and back, because the Trigons pop up and leave a little marker in place, which is like a tunnel, and reserves can pour out of there, meaning that you could just pop up and have this little thing that's pouring out loads of.
It's like the old Dark Eldar Web portal.
Yeah, it's like the Web portal. So you just got these hordes pouring out, and I think that works well. Or if you're going to use a Trigon, then it's best that's a really good synapse to use with a bunch of Morlocks. But I think a Morlock is a good solid unit, just one on its own, because of its large blast, strength 6, AP2, ignores cover, and then essentially you're going to get a reroll as well.
By turn 2 as well, your Hive Tyrant's going to be upfield to be able to give it the synapse. You've also got the drop pod coming in with the zone throbs in, so it is a good idea.
And
I feel that the Trigon Prime is too overcosted for what you get from him. He's not great at shooting. He's not particularly great in combat.
The Trigon Prime, if you upgrade him well with the relics and things like that, can be canny in combat.
But then you're looking at 300 points, and
you're looking at 300 points. 230 points is the exact same for a Flyrant, and the Flyrant does a better job.
Yeah.
It does have a 12 shot of strength 555 shooting attack. I've only used it once.
He's
and
BS3.
And he's BS3, yeah. I've only used it once, and I missed with every shot.
We caught that on film as well, didn't we?
Yes. So you get to see how much that made an impression on me whether I want it. But a Moloch as well, I mean, for it just being a standard monster creature, it can sort of last itself a bit in combat with just the standard units.
I think it's only 140, is it? 160?
And it's 140 points as well.
For 140 it's good, but for 230, no.
But I also think that it's sort of, when you're looking at someone who's on objectives, especially in Eternal War, he can pop up on one and he can hold his own on that objective and keep it for a little bit. Even in just Maelstrom as well. I need that objective, Morlock is going over there, which is really good, really diverse and things like that. The other 2, I've got an Exocrine in there, which I was talking about earlier, the really good AP2 shoot attack when you've got to deal with Terminators or something with the 2-up armor. Or just power armor Marines in standard.
I'd never used him until we played that big game with Josh and Ali, right? And to be honest, he's really good.
He comes into play a lot. He's a brilliant model. I think they've hit him right in the bone with him, but with the current way of 40k is, I think it needs to just be reduced a little bit more. In terms of points, I think other than that, he's got great. I mean, stay still, you get buff to bliss skill. The one thing I do find a little bit confusing is 6 shots or large blast. Now I understand he has a low ballistic skill, so the large blast means you have a higher chance to hit, say, 5 Terminators, rather than just firing these 6 shots and hoping you're going to hit with every single one of them. So sometimes I'm just like, why would you use the large blast when you've got these 6 shots?
I think the 6 shots is probably more for monster hunting.
Yes, I do.
Whereas the blast is probably more for your single, for example, use the large blast against Wraithguard and Terminators. Whereas if you, for example, say we're playing Tyranids against Tyranids, or even Dread Knights, I suppose the strength 7 AP2 is going to be great. He is a model I do like, and since we used him, I definitely think he is good. The only problem is he doesn't fit with my play style. Yeah,
the brother though to the Exocrine, the horror specs, I think if you upgrade the horror specs right, it can be one deadly creature, especially since it's regaining, I think, almost 3. Has a chance to regain 3 wounds each turn because you can use.
Is that gulp?
A gulp on a shooting weapon. and if you do a wound in combat, you regain a wound, and then you can also just give him regen. That's an extra 30 points though, which makes up the 190, and that's how I always run him, because you always got like, I do remember playing an Imperial Guard player who brought 15 las cannons against him. He got with just like one wound, just going to the field and using the cover saves, trying to get up there. One wound, going to a squad of 10 guardsmen and just regain all his wounds, and he's in the back line.
Yeah.
And that was before the pods, and you can just imagine how that happened. So you can just redo that. I do think a horror spec can be, if he just had that initiative 5 or 6, he's probably the best bet taken out of Wraith Knight, which is with give him poison because he's going to be wounded on 6s. But no, he's going to be wounded on 5s because he's going to be strength 7 due to the crushing clause. So give him fierce charge, so that first time he's wounded on 4s, but give him poison so he's re-rolling as well. And then the next following turns, if he survives, which he probably won't, he's got 5. He's wounded on 5s, and because the poison's going to be in 6s, and you're wounded normally better, he's re-rolling again and again and again, and that's best it.
What strength would he be?
He would be strength 7 because he's strength 6 standard plus 1. Because
you wouldn't get the reroll.
You will, because you're wounded on 5s, and poison always wounds on 6s against gargantuans. And that was why that's the reroll sort of aspect that comes.
I thought it was if your strength's higher than the toughness that you target.
No, it's if anything else is better than the poison.
So yeah, we've just double checked the rule, and that's Phil's opinion now. So poisoned would always wound on a fixed number unless your strength or something would cause a different number to be wound, and it would be lower. However, it does state the strength has to be higher than the toughness to get the reroll, so unfortunately against the Wraith Knight that wouldn't quite work. But still winning the Wraith Knight on 5s.
Nah, I have no words. But anyway, the last part of the list is a Toxicrone, because it's a solid model.
Yeah, as we've already discussed, what can you go wrong with
a personal sharded? I've seen in our 2 Tyranid games, it can just find little pieces of terrain and get his toughness on that, or you can have like a little small squad to go with them. In this one, I didn't give him a small squad because I was going to have him go along with the group. But he's a brilliant model anyway, and he shouldn't just slaughter anyone and everyone in combat unless you are super.
And I think anybody with a Toxicrene would agree the model is fantastic.
Oh, and amazing for points actually. Because I do know if you take, because it has like Acid Blood and Toxic Miasma standard, and they're just normal upgrades and Biomore. So if you just take them off as the normal points cost, it becomes even lower than 160, which means he's but you can't take them off obviously. But 160 points for such a beast model.
For what you get, it's brilliant. But I'm sure Phil, you'll agree the model itself is fantastic.
It's annoying,
but it's so unpractical. Which is why I have done that and picked up a Venom Throw.
It's like hook and duck, isn't it? It's
it's a nightmare to transport if you don't do this, but nevertheless, to look at it, it's a phenomenal model. So, Stu, I hope this has been helpful for you. Anybody else who's watched, I hope you've liked our bit of banter and overview of Tyranids. Thanks very much to Phil for going over this with us. And stay tuned, and we'll be going over my entire Tyranid force in a video in the next few days. So, thanks very much for watching.